Now that I finally beat Assassin's Creed Shadows, it means I can make a proper review. The game itself took me around 50 hours to complete, with about 15 or so of those hours being me exploring and messing around. For starters, I want to say that if you don't like the Assassin's Creed formula, this game isn't going to change your mind. Conversely, if you do like Assassin's Creed, you will love Assassin's Creed Shadows. Another big comparison that a lot of people are making is Shadows versus Tsushima. And to that I say, Tsushima was heavily inspired by Assassin's Creed in the first place, stealing a lot of gameplay elements from it. The main difference was that Tsushima was a work of art more so than just a video game. But as to whether or not I would say should you get Tsushima over Shadows, personally I think you should just get them both. They're very similar to one another, but at their core they're completely different games. Assassin's Creed Shadows is one of the best games Ubisoft has put out in years, and a lot of people are touting this as one of the best AAA games in years. And I'm not strictly saying that because of the gameplay being like that god tier. If I'm being perfectly honest, this is just another generic open world game, but the quality of it is insane. Anyone trying to spin this narrative of Ubisoft being bad and Shadows being garbage is just trying to clickbait you guys. Because Assassin's Creed Shadows has very, very minor bugs and is one of the best games in the Assassin's Creed franchise. Gameplay involves three specific elements. You've got stealth, combat, and traversal. My one major complaint is that throughout my entire 50-hour play session, the gameplay never changed. Like once you've conquered your first castle, you're gonna do that again 50 more times. Thankfully, the gameplay is really fun and really addicting, but I find it surprising that we didn't slowly unlock new tools for traversal and combat. Like despite the fact that we've got a skill tree for multiple weapon types, all the skill nodes ended up doing was just adding more damage or giving you a new ultimate ability. Like for example, I was really hoping I would end up getting a glider in this game, because the fast travel points can be a little bit annoying in that you will fast travel to the top of a tower, and then if you want to end up getting to somewhere nearby, you gotta climb off of the tower and then walk to your destination. Traversal also comes in two different colors. You've got the climbing, which is typical of your Assassin's Creed game. I didn't really find myself getting caught on the environment as much as in previous entries. But ladders, those kind of sucked. Your character kind of just gravitates towards them for some reason. But then you've got the open world traversal, or the exploration, which is pretty empty. I found it a bit surprising how dead the open world was outside of key locations, because you essentially are going to end up traveling on your horse for 10 to 20 minutes at a time to get to where you're trying to go. Once you're at that location, then you can climb, combat, sneak, whatever. But when you're running on your horse from point A to point B, it's a lot of dead air. And if you try to go off any of the main roads, you're just going to be met with a screen full of foliage. Like I think this game would benefit from having an auto run on my horse, where I could mark a location on my map and have my horse automatically bring me to it, which apparently was in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, so I don't know why it's not in here. And while the combat's a lot of fun, it's very fluent and very fast paced, I think the main highlight for me and why I enjoyed this game so much was the stealth. Assassin's Creed Shadows is one of the best open world stealth games we've ever gotten. As a fan of the stealth genre, which up to this point is pretty much dead, I really appreciated being able to sneak inside these castles as the protagonist Naoe. Stealth is especially fun during nighttime because the light sources actually matter. And while I think it's really cool that you have the dual characters of Yasuke and Naoe that you can swap between after you get through Act 1, I did find Yasuke's gameplay to be pretty lame in comparison. See, Naoe's got the depth of being able to parkour up anything, has a grappling hook, stealth, and combat. Yasuke is just combat. Like he can barely climb, and it's really annoying because you'll go into an enemy castle as Yasuke, kill everything, then have to leave the premises so you can swap to Naoe and actually explore the vertical height of the area. Oh, I guess I should also mention that there's base building, which is what most of the resources you collect are for. If I'm being perfectly honest, this part of the game felt a little tacked on. Story ranges from bad, good to great. There's a lot of love interest stories that are just terrible, some of the worst writing I've ever seen in a video game. But as far as the main characters of Naoe and Yasuke, I think that their characters were written really well in Acts 1 and 3. Act 1 in particular was a highlight point for me, with Act 2 being lame as hell. The main characters kind of take a back seat in favor of all of the different bosses that you have to fight, and where the story kind of tried to add depth to the villains, the writing of the main characters ironically ruined those moments. Like for example, one bad guy confronts Naoe directly, stating that good and evil are only a matter of perspective, which is a really interesting concept to ponder over. But instead, Naoe just acts like Batman saying, "I fight for justice." But you wanna know what the difference is between Batman and Naoe? Batman doesn't kill people. Naoe is killing hundreds of people, and the game just justifies it by saying, "I'm doing it for good." And Yasuke is just kind of there. Act 3, however, is when Yasuke really becomes front and center. And they use Yasuke very effectively, I might add, to bring in the lore of the previous Assassin's Creed games and the Templar into the main focus. I had an idea while I was playing through this game, by the way. I really wish that Yasuke wasn't in any of the marketing at all for this game. It would have just been such an amazing reveal to suddenly have him as a playable character. Okay, let's talk about the bad stuff. Glitches, there were barely any. Traversal, or exploration through forests, was kind of dumb. There was a severe lack of gameplay evolution, and combat got really bad late game because enemies just got spongier rather than harder. The game is also incredibly dark sometimes. I really wish that I could turn off the adaptive exposure of my character's eyes. There's also currently no ability to bulk sell items, which I think is inexcusable. Like, if you're trying to sell or salvage items, you have to do it one at a time like an idiot. There's also a lot of instances where you can't interact with something so long as you've been spotted by an enemy or are in combat. It's also pretty annoying swapping from one character to another, especially when you get to a quest NPC that wants you to talk to them as one specific character. I don't know why I can't just interact with them and have the game automatically swap me to the appropriate hero. Oh, and I guess I should briefly touch upon the fact that there is still pay to win in this game. If you end up going to the cash shop, there's a whole bunch of these different packs that you can buy that give you different armor and weapons. Keep in mind that the item will be scaled to your character's level, which means it's something that I would only really recommend you buying way later on in the game. But there is some good free-to-play stuff. There's actually weekly quests that you can grind to get XP towards a battle pass that gives you some really ballin' gear. It is a little bit concerning that they have this in a single-player RPG, but it's by no means required in order to progress through the game. Regardless, I could still easily recommend this game to pretty much anyone who likes the open-world game formula. It's not a next-gen open-world game like Zelda Breath of the Wild or anything like that, but as far as just a generic open-world game, this is top tier. Future content also plans on adding co-op, which would mean that this would suddenly become a must-buy. But there's also the first DLC, which is going to be adding new weapons and a new area to explore. And I assume the second DLC will be more so focused on yokai and oni and spirit stuff, because that's the formula that they always do with the Assassin's Creed games. The first DLC is just more of the same, and the second DLC is when they just go crazy.